Hello, hello, welcome back. Today we are discussing episode 35 of the Play Dicely campaign, Finewhistles and Fun Wizards. This episode begins with a party landing in New Fugleby. Our skyship comes in and it lands at this designated docking area. This whole city smells really nice. There's hills everywhere with these giant flowers on them. The big bees go from flower to flower. And as we get off the ship, we're greeted by this Kenku woman named Q, who's the sweetest little lady. She's kind of like an Arcanet ambassador here. She gives us some sending stones so that we can communicate more easily with the Arcanet now that we're out in the field. And she takes us on a very quick kind of little tour of the city and helps us get settled into some inns. We've been sent here to check up on Finewhistle, who seems to have gone missing. He's the head didact here in New Fugleby, and no one has heard from him in a little while and are starting to get concerned. So Q takes us over to his house, but on our way, she tells us that his house is haunted. Now, we've run into some ghosts before, and it didn't go super well, so we're not that excited about the idea of dealing with them again. But as we get into the house, we aren't really detecting evil, foul play here, really. We explore his house a little bit. It's dusty, it's dark. It seems like people haven't been here for a little while. And as we're kind of exploring, we start to hear a humming, wailing noise coming from one of the cupboards. And so we go over and open the cupboard, bracing for the worst. And instead, we find ourselves face to face with an ethereal head in a crystal ball. Our guest for the evening joins us, Nic playing Filinori Plants, a high elf wizard who has somehow gotten himself trapped in a crystal ball. What a crazy idea for a character, first of all. True insanity. He can't move on his own. Nell takes her rope of mending and fashions this little harness for him so she can tie him to her belt. And that's the only way he can get around. He tells us that Finewhistle bought him at a farmer's market not too long ago, but has been missing for the last 10 days, and so he's just been hanging out in this cupboard by himself. He can tell us that he last saw Cadway about a 10-day ago, when a man disguised as a gnome showed up, but with true sight he could tell that it was actually a blonde, blue-eyed man. I think everyone kind of pings Parsival, who we have met before, is not a great guy and is known for disguising himself as other people. Filinori helps us get down into Cadway's locked basement situation, and when we get in there, we realize that it's a workshop, and it's filled with these big constructy things just like the ones we saw in Dallenbridge at the bid. The group explores this workshop. We find a bunch of weird stuff, one of which is a letter from Bubbly P talking about how Cadway's work isn't appreciated by the Ascendancy, and just come work with us, we'll give you the funding, we'll help you, you can be head engineer on this project. I actually feel a little bad for Cadway. I feel like I empathize with him here, where he's clearly a genius, he's building these cool things that the Arcanet wasn't appreciative of them. I can see how he might have turned to a group that did seem interested in what he was doing. Sucks that this group is super frickin' evil. But I'm not pegging Cadway as a bad person himself here. I think he's just gotten himself into a bad situation. Other things we find in this room are a bunch of just kind of machinations. We find a room full of meat and rotted food. And as we continue to explore, all of a sudden Filinori triggers something in Nell as well so that she also has the ability of true sight. So she can look around this room as well, and she sees this light shard at the top of the room. Later on, the group debated if that was some sort of scrying orb, perhaps? Other significant thing that she sees is she looks at Abe. Now, we've known for a while that Abe, and all Argon folk, are the souls of people before now placed into these Argon folk bodies. And the question of who was Abe before Abe is one that we've discussed a lot. So when Nell looks at him here and sees a tall, long, dark-haired human man, it starts to answer some questions about who that might be. I think we, as the players, are now pretty convinced that the soul that is in Abe's body was once that of Pascalis the Brave, one of the heroes of the Desolation helped to get everyone underground. But this opens a whole new avenue to explore for us, and while Nell has not told him about it yet, she said that she was going to commit it to memory and sketch this out later to show Abe. And maybe then we can start to piece this together as characters as well. Shortly after that, some buttons get pressed, some automatons come to life, walls open up revealing extra rooms, and we find ourselves in combat. Nic playing Philanori Plants here has such a cool character concept. His whole idea is that he's a high-level wizard. I believe he built a 15th level wizard, but he can only cast spells through other people. He spent most of the fight attached to Nell, which was super cool. He just interacted really interestingly with her wild magic, and they were doing some massive damage together. We shouldn't have let him leave. We should have just kept him with us. Otherwise, it's a long fight. There's a bunch of different automatons coming at us. Nell and Gideon both go through some trauma. Gideon gets confused, and Gideon getting confused is always a little scary because it's like, what is he seeing? Why is he confused? And Nell has some slowing magic cast on her, which is the magic that she accidentally cast on all of her family as well, and it sends her into a small panic attack also. But despite all of that, we managed to make our way through this fight, and everyone is okay. Physically, at least. So we finish combat, and we kind of take a look around this room, and we find that there's a teleportation circle here. And Phil tells us that he's pretty sure that he can send us where we want to go, as well as send himself back to his tower. Elwyn takes this moment to ask him a little bit more about this tower. Just a few days ago, Wilela told Elwyn that there were powerful wizards in those towers who may be able to cast the wish spell. And so Elwyn took the opportunity to ask Phil about this. And Phil says that he's not sure he's a powerful enough wizard even when he's not in a crystal ball, but that he does have an artifact that might be able to help me. And then he describes a magical deck of cards that he has. And he says if you draw the right card, miracles can happen. Now, this is also something that Wilela brought up to me, and something that I didn't think Denny would actually introduce into this campaign. Though, the more I think about it now, the more that I am not convinced this is a real deck of many things, because I just can't believe that Denny would put that in his campaign. But that deck, from what I know of it, can do great things, but can also do terrible things. And it's just luck of the draw which one you get. And so she's extremely torn about if she should follow up on this deck. Should she go to this tower with him and pull a card from this deck? She kind of asks the group. Gideon says absolutely do it. Azaria says probably not. Elwyn is still kind of debating that when all of a sudden Drac hears a voice in his head. A voice that he's never heard before. It's Nell's sister Runa returning a sending that they'd sent to her days ago. She is one of the many people trapped in this slow time magic field that Nell created back in her hometown. And Runa speaks to Drac. She says that she's scared, but she wants to know if Nell is okay. Obviously throws Nell into another spiral. She's already kind of had a bad day. Drac kind of looks at the rest of the group and says that this seems like a sign that we should continue on the path that we're already on, which Elwyn agrees to. Going to explore using that deck would take us so far off course. And of course, dealing with the potential consequences of what messing around with that deck might do. But I am not thrilled about it. The group with the option to teleport anywhere in the world decides to teleport just outside the doors of this house because we gotta pick up our horses. You can't just leave them here. Absolutely could have. But I think there are some conversations that need to happen, and we've got a little bit of a trek now to get from here to Varmhall Village, which will be enough time for Nell to get ready to deal with whatever we're gonna find when we get there. But that is all for this time, my friends. If you are interested in catching the next episode live, you can follow us on twitch.tv/DicelyDND. Our next episode is going to be October 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern. So please come join us. We would love to have you there. But that is it for this time, my friends. I hope you are staying happy, staying kind, and as always, remembering to play dicely. Goodbye!